Anyway, yeah. So thanks for coming out, guys. We've got a decent conversation today. Something we've gone over in the past, but I think today we'll cover it officially. And then, Mario, we have your deal from Camelback Village Apartments that we'll be taking a look at and putting it in the calculator. We're just gonna transfer everything so everybody can see the whole process into this one. Looks good, by the way. So, and then we'll go from there. So you guys know who we are. Ed, Aldo, and Will, and this is the Tuesday night Zooms. And you guys know about the agenda. We're gonna try to cut it off right at 9 and go over our agenda. We'll talk about the ecosystem, the assumable loans. That's what we're talking about today. Assumable loans, pros and cons of that. Ed is going to talk about all the pros, and I'm going to talk about all the cons. And we'll go from there, and then we'll put it in the napkin, the deal. You guys know us, Ed, but just a quick intro to for the recording.
Yeah, as you guys know, based out of Los Angeles, I'm licensed realtor out here. Been in real estate for feels like forever now, but it's actually been 4 years. And just got into multifamily space, fell in love with it, own a couple stuff out here in LA, working on big stuff in Florida right now that we're hopefully, fingers crossed, close to something big. But yeah, if there's anything I can help with, my name and number are in my name, and looking forward to connecting with everyone here and on the recording that's listening on YouTube.
Yes, sir. And good point, guys. If you haven't changed your name, just change your name, put your name, number, Instagram handle if you're able to on your Zoom name so we can know how and where to reach you, as well as any information on the chat about who you are, what you do, what you're looking for, and how to connect. My name is Aldo and Edward. My partner, Will Otis, and I started Stoic Holding last year. And we started getting real serious about underwriting and submitting LOIs, Q4 last year. Him and I, we have, collectively almost 25 years of experience in the senior living space and operations and asset management. And we are true multifamily freedom chasers with W-2s and trying to create freedom for ourselves and a legacy for our family. And so we are here now, and we are teaching together on the concepts of quick napkin underwriting. So who are you? I do see some new faces today. So we have anybody that's new? Well, maybe put a 1 in the chat, and 2, if you don't mind just unmuting and kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, what you are, who you are, what you do, and what do you hope to get out of this? Let's see. All right. Well, not everybody at once. Let's see. Who are we going to pick today? See Ethan. I haven't seen you on here. Have you been on here before, Ethan? I don't quite recall. Well, hey, Fred, have you come on here and introduced yourself in the past?
Yeah, let me get off mute. Yes, I have actually been here several times, and it's funny you just said that because I just put a little info in the chat. I'm Fred. I'm out of Massachusetts. I've been listening to you guys. I think I joined. Well, I joined your presentations here. I think if he told me about it maybe a month ago, and I enjoyed trying to catch every one of them. I think what you guys have done is excellent, and the information you provide is excellent. And as far as I can tell, you do it all for free because I haven't had to pay anything yet. So I mean, that's an added benefit,
right.
And I think what you guys try to teach us is kudos to you and the whole team, man. I really appreciate that. I learn every day that you guys come on, and I'm here because I do underwriting. I don't want to offer it as a service, but I do want to learn the tips and tricks so that I can get better. So again, Aldo, Ed, and the rest of the team, thank you very much, and let's keep it going.
Absolutely. I'll send you an invoice later for that. No, I'm kidding. But
That's awesome.
so
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
Awesome. So I did also want to touch on something that you mentioned in the chat. So tell us about the units you own. You're a direct owner, so you're the GP on those?
Yeah, so I'm an old guy, right? So I bought I have 17 doors that I own here in Massachusetts that I bought probably 10, 12 years ago. And they're triplexes. I have one fiveplex, and we call them 3 tenements and 5 tenements here in Massachusetts. But what I did is I bought them over time. They were great deals, and what I did is I took the income and I slowly renovated, and now they're pretty much all renovated, pretty much all paid off, and actually allowed me to retire a little earlier. I'm a director of engineering. I just retired, so now I have time to spend on this and try to get into the larger units. I did also LP on 200 and I don't know if my math is right, but 296 units in right outside Houston on a Class A property, brand new property. Just trying to get my hands wet on the bigger units. Obviously, the goal is to GP, and I think one way I can get in is I have a lot of those 17 doors. I went ahead and I redid the whole construction, and I got a lot of tips and tricks in terms of, how to really put a schedule together, get all the materials ready, and really itemize almost like a Ford production line in terms of getting ready, and then, unleash the construction guys to efficiently put up cabinets, put up tubs and whatnot. So, I've done that pretty efficiently, and that is something that I'm hoping to get on a team to help with construction. And I have, a lot of the ideas in terms of how we can really, get efficient and save money, right? Right now, the biggest expense, when you go do construction, obviously materials have gone up maybe 3 times, 4 times, but at the end of the day, it's really labor.
Right.
Labor is what kills you. Getting good labor, getting skilled labor, that kills you. And so coming up with the methods that are really are able to, create as an example, a pattern, right? You create a pattern, you're gonna put up cabinets. Okay, that if you've got 3 apartments to do, you do those 3 apartments, put all the cabinets up, boom. That should be a half a day at most, then you put the counters in and you do it bang, 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 and you kind of do that process, and you can knock out 3 apartments in a couple of weeks, literally. So those are the type of things that you want to think about.
I have a quick question, and I want to tie this into not only assumable loans and underwriting in general, but underwriting in general is, you said you're LP on a deal.
Yeah.
Now, when underwriting, you're kind of catering the numbers to your LPs, because it has to make sense for them. It can make as much sense in the world for us, but it's easy to say when our money's not invested. Yes, we have the sweat equity. Yes, we have the putting the structure and the deal together. Of course, those are all components of a deal. As an LP, what do you look for? What made you interested in the deal that you invested? Maybe it's an operator, or it's the underwriting, or both.
Yeah, so I did the underwriting myself to confirm the numbers that were presented to me, and the numbers kind of aligned. Actually, I think they were a little bit more conservative than I was. I do know the team. I looked at the track record, and it's a small, very experienced team. They've gone full cycle, I think, in 7 assets, with great returns. Now, again, we got to take everything with a grain of salt, right? Because in the last 15 years, if you were breathing and you're in this business, you probably made money, right? Now we know going into the next maybe 10 years or 5 years, I don't know what the duration is going to be with inflation, interest rates. You got to be a better operator, right? You can't hope to get lucky, and you guys know this better than I do. And so if I'm going to LP in a deal, as a matter of fact, I was going to LP in another deal. They didn't want to give me their underwriting. So I backed out, right? I mean, look, the numbers look good, but when you don't want to give me the numbers to underwrite, I ain't going to go join you, right? And like I said, I did research on the team. I belong to Rod Cleef's program, and he's one of the guys that is on the team has been on that for 5 years and he's got a great track record. So I went along with him. And the reason I did that is to learn more about it, right? You get the reports, you get the monthly reports, you get to find out how the properties are executing, any issues. So I use that more as a learning experience, and that's why I invested in that. But you know, the money I have now, I'm looking more to get into GP. I want to get more of my, roll up the sleeves. Like I said, I asset managing construction. I love doing that type of stuff, and really that's what I'm trying to get into now.
Awesome.
Love
Well-
it, man. Thanks for jumping on, man, and being with us and sticking around for this long. Seems like you're the one that needs to be teaching out here, man. So
No, I don't know about
that.
No,
this is,
you guys again, hats off to you. I don't know what else to say, man. What you guys doing, taking time off, and the rest of your team on Sunday nights, and I mean, that's hats off, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys get the credit you deserve.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate you. You guys are the reward right now, and it really is paying off a lot of dividends. If you grow, we grow. So if I may add also, Fred, if you don't mind, I see your number. I don't know if you have an email address, contact info you want to put in the chat. We'd love to stay in touch with you as well. So
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you.
While we're on this call, not just Fred, if you don't mind, but anyone else, please text us your names and stuff. So once we have your numbers, it makes it easier for us to contact and reach out to you guys. I think it's a great way to stay connected.
yes, sir. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for the rest of you that are putting your info in the chat. Nice to meet you all. Let's get going here. Just really quick, our ecosystem here. For those of you who may not be familiar with it, we have 5 Zooms that we do, during the week, and it's both educational and activation. And on Sundays, we start with the core group, just Marcel, Trevor, and Victor N to the G, and they bring on some rock stars, and they just had Robert Martinez on this past Sunday, who, he's a big player. He's gotten, I think, Operator of the Year twice, across the country. So, he knows what he's talking about. We've had Rod Khalif, we've had, people from Grant Cardone's office, and, a lot of big players out there. And so it's a really great time, not only to be activated, but also to learn from people that are making it big in the industry. And by the way, they're all saying, be conservative, be good in your underwriting. Everyone that's doing well is being smart about how they go into deals and how they operate deals. And then, of course, on Mondays, we have Ed and Billionaire Pete doing their broker talks. You got to get some deals out there, and you do that by talking to brokers. So go out there on Mondays at 2 p.m. and see if you can catch them talking to brokers and teaching you how to reach out and talk to brokers about deals. Once you have a deal, you bring it on here. Like Mario, he's done, this is the second one. And you bring the deal out here, we look at it, we analyze it for you, we teach you the fundamentals of napkin underwriting, which is basically just looking at a deal quickly and seeing if it's worth continuing and going into a deeper dive in an advanced underwriting. Then on alternating Wednesdays, we have a debt Zoom with the Miles family, which is really a great Zoom for you guys to understand, because you have to finance the deal. It's good to understand the state of the debt market, and also the different debt products that are available for you to purchase an asset. And then on the other weekend, both at 8 o'clock, by the way, 8 p.m., Victor goes into advanced underwriting. Last week, I helped him co-host the underwriting Zoom, the advanced underwriting Zoom, and we went into the T12 in depth. And we talked about all the different nuances that are there, what to look out for, what may not be there, and how to ask for it, etc. The T12 is going to be a critical tool for you to be able to really underwrite in a more advanced way. And so with that said, that is our ecosystem. And like Fred said, it is all free. We do not charge anything at all. And all these people have spent thousands of dollars in learning this information and applying it. And it's all free to you, because we want to grow the community of like-minded professional individuals in a journey to freedom. to be able to get you all out there to do what brings you joy and meaning. So with that said, really quick plug. This Thursday, we have a special Zoom with Dr. Paul Sink, which we've actually had on here. I think we had him on here 2 weeks ago. I believe he said he's closed out. He full cycled about 40 deals, over the last several years that he's been practicing. So exciting times. And obviously, Michael Bailey with Massive Capital is going to be joining him, and they're going to be talking about all of these different really great topics, such as why diversification is important, how to select the right mix of assets in your portfolio, strategies for managing risk and maximizing returns, and the role of alternative investments in a diversified portfolio. So you won't want to miss it. It's going to be great. I encourage you to join that. With that, this is our contact information. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to reach out to us. We would be happy to connect with you on anything you may need. So today we're going to talk about assumable loans. So Ed, why don't you take it away? First of all, what in the world is an assumable loan?
I don't know.
All right.
It's one of those things that you just work into a deal. No, I'm kidding. So essentially what the assumable loan is, you are taking over an existing loan that was lent on, I guess, prior to or at the time of the last purchase. Now, if you want to get really tricky, I would verify this, but you can also possibly assume a loan that has previously been assumed. Now, essentially what that means is you're taking the same exact terms that the previous purchaser, the buyer, qualified for, and requalifying it and transferring it to your name. You're assuming it. Okay. Very simple. Why is that beneficial? I think that's what you want me to talk about, right? Yeah. So what are the benefits? Biggest benefit of that is obviously with today's rates being so unstable and higher than they were a few years ago, you are getting in at a much lower rate. For example, I'm negotiating a deal that the rate's 3.1. I don't think you can pay enough money. Actually, you can, but you get what I mean. You shouldn't, to find a rate that low. So that's the biggest value of the assumable loan is the rate. Things to be aware of and be cautious of. One is the length of the term, because even though it's amortized over 30 years, which most are, doesn't mean there's still term to it. For example, it could have been 10 years ago, but if it was acquired 7 years ago, you're on a timer because that loan comes due. So that's just one thing to be aware of. Another thing to be aware of is how much it's leveraged. What that means is if I'm buying a property for 10 million, but the loan is for 5, that 5 is your down payment. It has to come from somewhere, and that's your down payment. So keep in mind that also they're great, like have a lot of pros to them. The cons can be short turnaround. A big one can be where you find the rest of the equity from that you have to put down. And the last thing you have to be aware of is where are they at with their interest only period. Most loans have an IO period of 3 to 5 years.
1 to 5 years now.
Yeah, if you're assuming the loan, you're not assuming it day one. You've cut into that time. This same deal that I mentioned where I'm getting a 3.1 loan, the IO period ends about 2-3 months after we close. So it's like, hey, surprise. You got this great loan, but now you're going into your principal. Which the pro obviously is you're building equity. The con, your payments went up. So there's something you have to factor in with your underwriting, and you can't overlook at all because it'll definitely screw up your underwriting. I think that's the biggest component of it, hence our topic. So just keep that in mind with the assumable loan is the great rate. Make sure it's leveraged as best as possible. And be careful of the IO period. Those are the biggest things, although I'm sure if you want to add anything, go ahead. But
Yeah, no,
just-
IO period meaning interest only period and
Yeah.
put that on there. Thanks for that. Yeah, absolutely. So it can be very advantageous to look at an assumable loan. And I love that you pointed out the things to watch out for. Those are definitely things that you have to really make sure that you read the loan terms as well. And typically they'll have those on there when you're looking at an assumable loan. What are some of the cons and why are we talking about this in terms of our napkin underwriting? Well, you have to be careful not to overpay for the asset, even though you have an assumable loan, right? Obviously, a lot of this depends on your investors. It depends on your play, how you want to operate and then exit the deal. But it is possible for you to pay more than what it's currently worth just based on the debt. So what am I talking about? Let's say, you get a deal that is in today's market, let's say based on the market cap rates, that it's worth, say, $10 million, right? That's what it's worth based on its performance. It's NOI divided by the market cap rate. That's where it is and what it's worth, right? If the broker is saying, hey, it has this assumable loan, so you can maybe pay a little bit more for it because the terms are good and you'll still cash flow close to the same. Okay, great. So what happens then? So if on a normal day or on these normal times, we're getting the loan, we can get a loan for anywhere from 5.5% to 6% on that with an interest only period potentially. The deal is worth $10 million. It may still not even work at that $10 million, but let's say that it does and that the going in cap rate is above that and we're comfortable with it, past year one. And then you take this, this other loan into consideration, this assumable loan coming in at 3.1, and they're asking for, let's say, a 4.5 going in cap rate, still fairly well above the interest rate, which and you're gonna cash flow, right? If your loan is that low, the percentage is that low, you're gonna cash flow even with a 4.5% going in cap rate. Now we've gone over what the going in cap rate is several times here, so and we can go over it at a later time, but essentially your going in cap rate is a good litmus test as to whether this deal is a good deal or not, whether it's going to cash flow or not, right? So it's important that it's above your loan rate. Now, what could happen? So you're cash flowing, everything's great, everything's beautiful, but what could happen? Let's say that 5 years down the road, you decide to sell the asset. Well, you're immediately going to be losing out money. If you could potentially be losing out money immediately when you sell it, one, because the cap rate that you sell it at is already higher when you purchase it. It's already higher than where you went in. So for example, let's say you go in at a 4.5 rate, but right now the market cap rate is, call it 6. Let's call it 6. Well, you're 150 points above the current market cap rate. And we know that when the cap rate expands or it increases, the value of the property goes down because of the way that it's calculated, right? The cap rate is the denominator. And so the higher the denominator, the lower the total amount. The lower the denominator, the higher the total amount. So if we know that we go in at 4.5 and our current cap rate is 6.5, the denominator is higher, which means that the value is lower. Let's go down the line 5 years. Most people underwrite a higher exit cap rate than when they went in, just to be conservative, whether it's 25 or 50 basis points. They underwrite something higher. But let's say you even keep it at the same, just to maybe be wild. You keep it the same at 6, where you were going in. Well, you have to make up for that difference in value with your NOI. So if your NOI stays the same for all those years, you lose money. And we can go into that later, but you'll lose money if your NOI stays the same. So you have to grow your NOI by X amount in order to even break even at the end of this assumable loan, because you bought it at a lower going in cap rate. So you have to go in above that in your NOI. You have to really perform this well so you can have a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Upside on this. So you have to have a really good upside on this in order for you to be able to make money at the end. So it's not impossible, and I don't necessarily discourage it. You just have to really watch out for how much you pay for it today, what the cap rate is today, and what you can exit at in the future, 5, 7, 10 years from there.
And there's two strategies I want to touch base on too regarding assumable loans. But one point I want to make is you have to really know the details of the loan. You know, you can't just say the rate's this, the IO period is this, the principal is this. Okay, I know everything about it. Definitely not. Like I was saying before, can this loan be reassumed by someone else? For example, the same deal I'm just going to keep referring to because it's an easy sample, is the loan has a 9-year life on it. If after 4 years I want to flip this property and have someone else assume the loan, why not? That 3.1 is going to have the same weight and advantage that I'm buying it today in 5 years, 4 years. So I can create that same value then up to that point, and then allow the next buyer to reap the benefits of it. But you have to make sure that's possible. The second thing, and probably my favorite strategy with this, is, like I said, there's that large portion of equity that you have to come down with the down payment on. Well, what's the easiest way to combat that? And this is, we're doing it somewhat in this deal, is the seller, the equity that you're putting in for the down payment is going to the seller. Ask them to sell or carry a part of it. Like the example I use, if it's a $10 million purchase, the $5 million loan, I have to make up $5 million. Hey, carry 2.5 of it, carry 2 of it, whatever. You're only gonna benefit yourself, and you're gonna have more flexibility and less capital raise having done that. One thing though that I think, unless although you have anything, it's kind of where I'm gonna finish off on this, is be careful of assumable loans. Assumable loans, the attractiveness, the shiny big neon red light that is an assumable loan, means the seller is always going to ask for more than it's worth. Kind of to what Aldo's point was, but you aren't getting that rate for free. Keep that in mind. There are cons and other things that are factored into it, and that attractiveness does carry weight. There is a downfall to it, but always remember, you do the proper underwriting, you factor it in appropriately, and you really know the terms of the loan, you'll be fine. It is something that has its advantages. I would never say shy away from it. I'm trying to get one right now, but actually that brings up another point. Sorry, last one. Make sure you have someone that can assume the loan. You still have to qualify. Don't think just because it's an assumable loan, I can jump in and just take it. They're going to re-qualify you as if you were acquiring the loan for the first time. Right? So you still need to have someone that's net worth is that amount. You still need to have the funds backing you. You can't just come in with this blind and hope, oh, it's assumable, they'll just pass it on to me. You have to requalify and make sure you have someone in place who requalify or qualify from your end and represent you. That's a big component of the assumable loan, because you can find the best deal in the world. You still need someone to make sure that loan is covered.
That's right. So any questions on assumable loans before we get into our deal here?
Just a question. What are you using now for cap rate escalators for exit caps?
I mean, it really varies. So part of what I use is going to be the lender exit cap rate, and whatever they think is going to be. That's part of it. And then some folks, I've heard it said, anywhere between 10 and 20 bips per year, which is, I think, the standard. So, I'm looking at somewhere between 25 and 50 basis points.
On a 5-year, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm using 10. So yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good question. All right. Let's get into this. Mario, thanks for sending this deal out. So I'm gonna be putting in some of this data that you have on the napkin. But I'd love for you to speak into this a little bit. We're looking at St. Camelback Village, 30th Street, Camelback Village Apartments. What state is this in? Sorry, brother, you're breaking up a little bit, man.
Said it's Arizona. Better?
No, sorry, man, I can't hear you.
Well,
Let's see.
how
Arizona.
about now? Is that better?
Yes, that is better.
Oh,
So it's in Phoenix. Awesome. Let's see, 31 units.
yeah, and it's pretty much completely been renovated. The issue I had with it, and I'm sure you'll see, it's more telling on the T12. And so I've got a lot of questions that I wrote down for the broker, just to give you some idea. Big question I'm asking now is with rents, what's included, because there are communities that are like Ed and I are looking at one and it's furnished and all utilities paid. So obviously you want to comp the right kinds of properties, but you also want to know what your capabilities are for value add, how to decrease the expenses accordingly. There just was some anomalies that appear to be on the T12 that were kind of staggering by dollar amount, but I just want to know what happened over the past year. For instance, there's a lot of bad debt there. The vacancy is super high, but it's not if you look at like on the T3 basis. But when you factor these numbers in for your T12, it doesn't show the property in the best light. So there's a lot of bad debt there, especially from February to April, but then there's none in the most recent months. I had to understand what a reletting fee was. So I had to do a little Google search. That's just the costs and expenses with releasing a unit after eviction. So I got that handled. But then for office supplies, there was a $30,000 month. It was just 1 month in the T12, but no other anomalies in any other month. So obviously I'm curious about that. And I just wanted to know how the payroll is comprised just from a staff perspective. Is there anyone on site? How many, if anybody's full-time, part-time? I didn't see any real concessions there. So there's some things that if you look at the financials, create more questions than answers.
Right.
And the reason why I looked at this one was because I can't really raise the rates. If you look at the OM and you look at the rent comparables, they're pretty much maxed out. So the only real play is on the expenses and other income. So determining some way to get to a number that makes sense based upon that.
Those are some really great questions, Mario. I'm glad you're thinking in that direction. Yeah, I was trying to just figure out what the actual rents were here. So the OM says 1361. We're looking at 1390 here.
Yeah, 1361 is what it is currently. And then there's not much room there. So
I think what I saw was what, 1400?
Yeah. So it's really operating this power. I mean, right now the expenses were like 75% right now, 74%.
Wow.
So obviously something that's probably at about 40% makes sense, but it's how do you get there? I know, as I said, there were some anomalies there, so I'm sure that'll help. And then looking at
have they put in a lot of work into it lately?
Yeah, it looks like in 20 they did, but the numbers, maybe things just hadn't caught up until now. They did mention some things about COVID and how mismanaged it was during COVID and even afterwards. So I think some of it was a management issue as well. So there's just questions that I want to get answers from the broker specifically about, just the story, what happened, what's going on now. And than what's realistic, because at 6.1, it doesn't leave any room. I mean, like, I'm looking at something probably in the area of like 4.2.
Okay, so 6.1 is the guidance.
Yes.
And
And
yeah,
no mention of assumable loan. Didn't have a conversation about seller carry, so I just literally got the package. So I didn't even,
yeah, that's odd that the expenses are that high, and even at 90% with a lower expense ratio. I mean, that going in cap rate is still really high, being at 5.5%. I mean,
Mhm.
Phoenix is high, I'm sure. I mean, that I don't know that market, but I've heard it's just ridiculous too. I don't know. I mean, is this a new build or is it what
no,
year?
it was originally built in 70, but renovated in 20.
So it was just been renovated recently. Okay, so it's been brought up
Yeah.
maybe to B class probably.
But I mean, they had like 70 grand worth of bad debt, so that obviously.
Where are collections now? Are they collecting most of it now?
Yeah, now they seem to be on track now. If you look at everything on like a T3 basis, they look to be really good. But when you factor in the T12 and certainly that,
That is
they're
massively,
cycling out of that.
that's massively suspicious.
Yeah.
And they just all of a sudden just get their books right a few months, 3 months ago. So I would definitely drill down on that. And you know what? Sometimes they're not so willing to give you all this data until you put in an LOI.
Yeah.
So I would just lowball the heck out of them. Or maybe not even lowball, just be like, look, man, based on your NOI right now, even off of real time right now, your NOI and this market rate and this market right now, I'm sure cap rates in Phoenix are, maybe in the mid to high fives, maybe 6. I'm not sure. You would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but
No,
just
you're right on target.
yeah. So even if you go, yeah, so you were coming in at like 4 million, right?
Yeah, 4.25. And that was on some assumptions based on the exit. So I was looking at, an average rent at the end of 5 years to like 15-30.
One point real quick, sorry, I don't want to take it off topic, but mentioning something regarding the financials being a little weird or like you might not have all the information you need. I'm in a similar situation like that now. On the Florida deal that I've been mentioning, I'm hoping to get under contract. I don't have a T12. I've done everything without a T12. Here's my thought process. I am going based off of the information they provided me. And I say this every time I say this statement. I am not going into a deal knowing like, hey, the plan with the idea and plan that I'm gonna get credit or reduction, price reduction. That's never my intention. I think that's the wrong intention to do business. I'm going in at 17 because I know I'm gonna force them to give me 16. I'm not trying to do that. But if I'm going based off the information they're giving me, any new information they provide during due diligence gives me every right to request a reduction and a correction from the new information provided. I will stand by that. That's what I expect you to do. I was under the assumption your property is XYZ. I now have new information, giving me reason not to believe that. If these corrections can't be made, I'm not coming in with the same deal we initially negotiated. And that's something I'm doing right now where my intention isn't to go into this deal and say, hey, I want XYZ just because. It's you're giving me new information. I'm waiting on you for this information. So now that I have it, great. If it checks out, then I'm not adjusting anything. And if anything, it might play in my favor to a certain extent. But if it's new information that doesn't make it look as appealing, obviously we're gonna have that discussion. So keep that in mind too. At least that's how I'm moving right now, because I don't lose anything getting into contract, or at least even getting an LOI accepted. And to be honest, especially for anyone, not just you, but anyone who hasn't done that deal yet, it's not a bad learning experience. Because you really go through the work of what do I need, what do I have to prepare, who do I need to talk to, what are they going to ask me for, how's that conversation go, how long do you have to wait, which is probably the most frustrating part. But these are all things that going through it, you'll learn like, okay, now I know better prepared next time what the seller's gonna expect, what the brokers are gonna ask me, and so on and so forth. And you kind of warn people up too, like, hey, I'm actually moving, like I'm doing things. Get ready because one of these are gonna hit, right? So that's just my 2 cents on the whole document situation.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And it leads me to another point, which is when you take this on to advanced underwriting, you're underwriting what you think you can operate at, or what you know what you can operate at, the expenses that you can operate at, so that if you know the area, and maybe, you know, this is something that you get with a management company about there, or if you have the experience, because that's when we underwrite, then we say, hey, look, this is a typical amount that we can expect for utilities. This is a typical amount we can expect for, and you already have quotes, you know, from the past for, you know, insurance, taxes, payroll, maintenance, you know what the typical things are. And with a recent update, your maintenance cost shouldn't be that high anyway. So you can go in and underwrite it with the expenses that you think should be there. And then you operate to that. You try to be a little more conservative, obviously, but then you can operate to that. On the same token, you know, they mismanage the property. So, and if there's, you know, an economic vacancy of less than 90%, you know, which it sounds like there is, then you kind of, you know, you take that into effect. Say, hey man, this deal is just not worth that. Now, if they have a T3 revenue that's much better, I would use a T3 and revenue and annualize it. And then I would use the T12 expenses, which is actually what the lender uses. So I think that's a good way to do that, because it's the most recent performance, and just go from there. So kind of getting back to your point about, you know, your exit, you were looking and playing around with increasing it to 1542, stabilize it at 1500.
1532. So that's where I looked at exiting based upon where rents are now, and just looking at a 3% increase for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes the average up to like 1532. So that's what I was using for my exit, because that's where I assume I'm going to be at the time.
So one thing that Victor will probably say about that is, have you done a market study of Phoenix to see kind of, and maybe even this area specifically, to see where the market is, where the rents are they, you know, is the absorption rate negative? Can it support the rents that these people, because these people like to throw out all these rates that they're currently taking or having, but you know, you're not looking at the market and what's happening, and you know that absorption rate is going down negative, and you know all that stuff. Have you done anything like that here?
Not lately, but I just kind of use our markets are very similar between Phoenix and Vegas. And
Okay.
I shared this with Ed, but they are projecting through CoStar data that we'll probably be seeing double-digit vacancies here very soon in B and C properties. And so I even use like an 8% vacancy between economic and physical on this assumption. Now, right now they're 19% based upon the T12. So I'm just showing if they normalize things out based upon where things are headed to go, we're probably gonna be somewhere just south or at a double-digit vacancy between the two in both markets.
Got it. I mean, it's not a bad deal to see kind of where you can get rents to. It's really $200 over current. Yeah, you're getting close to like 10% and above total increase all the way out. And let's say that, yeah, I'm just putting down occupancy at 95. So you keep the same occupancy. Well, let's go and say I'm going to operate at 95% and get it there. Sorry. Okay, so then you know you have this. So what about does it have an assumable loan on it?
No, nothing that was mentioned. So I'm assuming that it doesn't.
So this
Do you
could be
use Assumable? They'll try to market the heck out of it. So there's a good chance
yeah,
if
right.
you know about it, it's not there.
Been looking at this kind of rate here. 5-year, 1-year IO, potentially you could get it around here. Maybe somewhere between 65 and 70 LTV. Just ballparking. I'm not an expert. Go ask an expert.
I'm looking at DSCR is right at 1.25, so that's as much as you can get the lesser of.
Mhm.
So you're right where you need to be.
Well, that's at 4 million.
Yeah,
So I mean, the going in cap matches the interest rate.
And I
So-
think if I can chime in, I think loan to value 60% is kind of what's gone, maybe 55 to 60. They're really toughing it for properties B and under. You know, maybe if it's a B plus, you can get to 65, but I would use 60 just to be a little conservative.
That's a good point. Definitely a good point. I've been seeing a little higher, but I think you're right. I think it's good to be conservative on the LTV. Yeah, man. Personally, I think it's overpriced. Because even at 4 million is at 129,000, 130,000. But I don't know the market, right? I don't know what's going on here. So I mean, it could be a good exercise to take it to the next level and see where you think you can get it to operate. You know, 31 units, man, that's tough because from a payroll standpoint, should you have somebody on site? You know, should you just pay like the 7 or 8% management fee and just have them, you know, have somebody, you know, frequent it, you know, from the inside? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough at 31 units. Personally, I don't think you should have somebody on site. You shouldn't have payroll at 31 units. So maybe that's an area to look at you know, on the T12s. But
and on their payroll, they're 50 grand on payroll based on the T12.
oh man,
And paying the management fee
no, that's part of it.
32,000.
They're so high. What are they paying on management fee? What's the percentage? Do you know?
It says 4%, but the math checks out to be more like 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, they're overpaying
They're paying
for a lot.
1,000. Yeah.
So there might be some good opportunities here, man, if you can operate it well. Get you a
Yeah, it looks like
discount.
it's got a lot of fat in it, and it's also it's not being managed very well. So I want to know what's realistic on what you could do to get that expense ratio down to, you know, somewhere 50 or less from
Yeah.
75 right now.
Mhm.
And then see how much of that is just trimming the fat. I mean, between payroll at 50,000, and then you've got management fee of 32,000. That's all I want to know what that was comprised of. Like, who's making 50,000 on a 31 unit deal, and you're still paying a management fee of 32,000.
That's a lot of money, man, for 31 units. What's your revenue? 400, 450?
Almost $500,000.
Yeah, man.
So
that's-
based on the T12 is at 470. If you do a T3, it's right at 500,000.
Maybe the owner was just paying himself 50K.
Probably.
Yeah, that's
That's 9%.
I want to assume
That's almost 10%. Oh, you know, salary wise. So your management fee, so 32 divided by 55, 7%.
Yeah,
That's high, man. That's high.
yeah.
I mean, I could see it if he was operating like MTR, like I do, because you do need someone on site. And then you also, if you don't want to do all the manual work for 31 units, you hire in like an Evolve or one of those kind of companies. And they also charge a pretty hefty management fee. So, you know, I could see it. It's a lot, but you know, it's about how that person that owns it is particularly operating, right? Like maybe they're all hands off, right? So they just want an on-site handy person, you know, slash, you know, landlord in-house, right? And then they pay someone to do all of the paperwork. So
Yeah.
What was the acronym you used? MTR? Is that what you used?
Yeah, midterm rentals.
Midterm rentals.
So you have a
Midterm
little bit
rentals,
higher turnover than a short term, like they're typically right around 3 months or so. Like it's between 1 month and 3 months, or just a day after 1 month and 3 months is MTR typically.
Mhm.
Okay.
So for long-term rentals, you know, when you have a management company come in, I mean, typically you pay them a higher amount, a higher percentage, because they'll use their internal people and essentially make rounds from all the different, you know, buildings that they have, so that you don't have somebody in there. Alternatively, what Lana was saying, you could have somebody in-house just lives there for a discount, even for a discounted price on one of your units, and they handle a lot of it, which, you know, I've seen happen a lot. You have some, you know, live-in, I don't know, I don't remember what they call it, but an in-house manager that
Like
takes
a caretaker almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. And so, but 50 grand, man, that's, you know,
That's a really good price for a caretaker, I'll tell you, because I ran a 21 unit as a caretaker and I got like free rent out of it. That's it. So it's like that's a thing.
and a 7%, you know, property management fee. It's high, man. It's high. So yeah, definitely dive in more. Maybe just underwrite it yourself in some sort of analyzer, and see where you think you can get it to. What kind of analyzer do you use?
SDA, the syndicated deal analyzer.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Trying my hands at it.
Recently. It's robust,
It is.
which is good. Well, I'm not sure I really gave you any direction on this, but it was a good exercise.
Mario, we can dive into it later tomorrow, or more tomorrow.
That
Yeah,
was good.
I got you.
I got what I needed. I got Ed's commitment and it's recorded. So
boom.
You know, any deal you got, I got your back. We'll run it.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Of course, my pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, good. Hey, it's 9 o'clock, y'all.
Awesome.
You
It's
got-
the syndicated deal analyzer, the SDA, Michael Blancs.
Michael Blanks, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Mike. Okay, so that one's a little different. That one doesn't have the pref in it. It's pretty straightforward. It's
No, you can put pref in there for interest.
doesn't have it doesn't have the hurdles like the synthesizer does.
Oh,
But it's good. It's a good, yeah, it's a good tool. I use something completely different and it works for me, but these other ones are cool.
What do you use?
Oh man, it's custom.
Okay.
So actually, I took a course on Udemy from Justin Kivel. Yeah, he's great, by the way, if you guys haven't heard of him. And he's got one where you build it out, you build the entire thing out with him. And that was an amazing exercise. You're building a whole underwriting tool. So I paid like $10 for the course. It was on sale, so it was worth it.
That's
So-
a good ROI. Sounds like it.
Gotta love it.
100%, 100%. So
I think one of you guys should write out a little course on underwriting and post it to Udemy. You'll make a little profit on everybody that registers.
man, we've thought about doing that just for free and just putting it on YouTube, man. Just do a quick 12-week course. Yes, Ed. Yes, we want to provide value out there.
I mean, now I'm giving
Free,
a
man,
big,
free.
I'm upset we didn't think of the Udemy thing before because we're doing the course right now. We're in the
Yeah.
middle.
Oh, I've thought about it.
It's
No.
actually, it becomes like a
Hold on.
marketing tool.
Let's
I've used it
hit
before
stop
myself.
recording. Let's hit stop recording so they can't hear us, and then we can start talking money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there
Get
you
rid
go.
of the evidence. Mario's already holding me to one of the clips. Well, I don't need
Yeah.
to after this. This is the blackmail Ed call.
That's right. This is awesome. No, hey guys.
Everyone,
this was
everyone
awesome.
bring $5 next week.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Hit subscribe, make $5.
Boom. Boom. Just like that. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, it was a great call. Again, thank you guys for your participation and your support out here. You guys are awesome. and appreciate you guys showing up, and keep showing up, and let's build some big things together. So you have an awesome night, and don't miss the rest of the Zooms. They're good stuff.
Thanks, Aldo. Thanks, Ed. Thank you very much, man. You guys have a good
Good night,
one.
everybody.
Have a good night,
Bye,
guys. All rock.